Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, novelisations, cryptids, and non-fiction. It's my November TBR. So November is nearly upon us, which is terrifying. We are almost at the end of the year. And where I am in the UK, it definitely feels like autumn today. It is chucking it down. It's really, truly miserable out there. So my November TBR. So a bit different this month in that because I'm starting my Read What You Own challenge in November. So that starts on the 6th of November, a challenge where I'm going to read 100 books I already own before buying any new ones. What I'm doing in this TBR today is I'm going to talk about books I'm reading for specific events and like ongoing projects I've got going on. But I'm not setting a broader TBR than that. So I've got, how many books I've got on my list here? I've got 16 books on my list for those events and ongoing projects, but I will definitely be reading other things as well. But I will be picking things at random from my I've got a pile of books that I've kind of picked out for as contenders for my 100 book challenge, my Read What You Own challenge, and I did a video about that a little while ago. So I've got a few things, physical books there. I've also got tons of stuff on my Kindle. So what I'm going to try and do is come up with some sort of silly TBR game where I can randomly pick books from either the physical pile or from my Kindle to read. So we'll see if I manage to come up with something. If you've got a suggestion for an amusing way of picking books, which potentially I could make videos about and share on the channel. If you've got recommendations for that, let me know, and I'll see if I can incorporate one into my reading in November and indeed in December, because I'll probably end up doing something similar in December and into January as well. Anyway, right, so let's talk about the projects and reading events that I've got books picked out for. So let's do the projects first. So 2 projects I'm doing at the moment. So one is my Stephen King project, where I'm reading all the Stephen King books I haven't read yet. So the next one of those is The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is book 4.5 in the Dark Tower series. And what I'm typically trying to do with this Stephen King project is read things in chronological order of when they were published. This one I'm reading out of order because this is, as I say, book 4.5 in the Dark Tower series. I've already read book 4, and the next book chronologically I need to read, I believe, is book 5 in the Dark Tower series, Wolves of the Calla. So this was actually published later, but because it's a kind of shorter novel that fits into the series at a certain point, I thought I'd read it before Wolves of the Calla. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure I did. I'm not sure it did. But anyway, this is the Stephen King book I'll be reading this month. This lovely edition, very kindly sent to me by Ellis, one of my patrons. So yes, I'll be reading that. And then I will also be reading for my Patricia Highsmith project, where I'm reading all of Patricia Highsmith's books with Anne from the channel Anne Novella. The next one of those is actually one I've read before. I think this is the first Patricia Highsmith book I ever read. I think I had a paperback copy of it and read it on holiday or something like that years ago. I really enjoyed it. So it's Those Who Walk Away, which is from what I remember, it's about a guy whose daughter goes missing, and it's about him trying to figure out what's happened. So I remember that being a really good one. So those are the 2 ongoing projects I've got. In terms of reading events then, so 3 reading events I'm going to be taking part in this month. So Non-Fiction November, which was created by a book olive. So I'm going to read a couple of things for that, one of which crosses over with one of the other events. So the main thing I'm going to read for Non-Fiction November is the non-fiction book everyone is talking about this week, which is The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. So Britney Spears' memoir, which has caused a big splash, and lots of people on BookTube seem to be saying is really, really good. So I'm going to be reading that. I do not own a copy of it, so I need to read it before my Read What You Own challenge starts on the 6th of November. So Spotify in the UK now do like an audiobook service where you get, if you're a premium subscriber, which I am, you get 15 hours of audiobook listening a month. So I'm going to use some of my 15 hours to listen to that Britney Spears book, which I think is only about 6 hours long. So yeah, Britney Spears, The Woman in Me, will be my main pick for non-fiction November. I'm also going to be reading Pageboy by Elliot Page. So that also works for Novelisation November. So let me talk about Novelisation November. So this is an event run by Andrew from the channel It Came From The Page for his patrons. So Andrew, if you don't know his channel, you should check it out. It's fantastic. He's really into like novelisations of movies, of TV shows, video games and things like that. And they are something that is close to my heart because I read tons of novelisations when I was a kid. So, you know, when I was a kid, which was a long time ago, so late 70s, early 80s, we didn't have a video, didn't have a video recorder. And that was back in the day when, if you missed there was no streaming, there was nothing like that. So if you didn't see a movie at the cinema, you didn't get to see it until it turned up on TV, which was often 4 or 5 years later. So there were lots of movies that I first experienced that, the stories of through movie novelisations. So like Star Wars, for example, I read the Star Wars novel multiple times before I saw the movie. And also as a fan of, someone who in my teenage years in particular became a fan of horror movies, there were lots of horror movies that were just not available in the UK because of the video nasty scare or were heavily edited or, whatever. So I ended up experiencing quite a lot of those through novelisations first as well. So when Andrew announced he was doing this Novelisation November event, I definitely wanted to take part. So anyway, Pageboy by Elliot Page I will also be reading for Novelisation November. So not a novelisation, but a non-fiction book about the movies. So Elliot Page, obviously an actor, so very interested to read it and hear his thoughts on, kind of the movie industry and also obviously, more importantly with that book, the experience of being a trans man. So next for Novelisation November then, we have, so one of the other prompts is a movie tie-in edition. So not a novelisation of a movie, but an edition of a book that's been made into a movie where the edition of the book cashes in on the fact it's a movie, if that makes sense. So for that, I'm going with The Outsiders by SE Hinton. So I have read this before, absolutely loved it. I should have read it as a teenager, but didn't. I'm sure I remember getting it out of the library or something like that, but never actually read it. Definitely remember the name SE Hinton from my teenage years anyway. So a wonderful, wonderful book. This is just a horrific movie tie-in edition with just the cheesiest photo of the movie cast ever on the cover there. Just awful, but really looking forward to reading it again. It's a school edition. You can tell because it's got a stamp in the front there saying English department, just so that anyone in the school knew that this fiction book was owned by the English department rather than, like the science department or the geography department or what have you. Anyway, really looking forward to rereading the Outsiders, even if this is a really horrible looking edition. Okay, one of the other prompts then is a novelisation of a movie that never got made, which I thought was a really interesting prompt and a difficult one to track down books for. Fortunately, Andrew had a suggestion, so this is the book he's reading for that prompt. It is Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster, which I think is the first book I ever remember DNFing. So I had this book back as a kid. I was big into Star Wars, despite not having seen any of the films, and ended up with a copy of this and just couldn't get into it. So this is George Lucas, when he made Star Wars, didn't know if it was going to be a success or not. Didn't know if he'd get the money to make Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, to continue the series in the way he wanted to. So he had also done treatments apparently for like cheaper versions of like Star Wars stories, and Splinter of the Mind's Eye is one of those. So really interested to see what I make of this now. Alan Dean Foster. I couldn't not read an Alan Dean Foster book for Novelisation November. He's the king of movie novelisation. So really interested to see what he does with this story anyway. So yes, that's the next one. And a fantastic cover too. I really do think that's a good cover. Okay, next then we have a non-movie novel by an author who has written novelisations, if that makes sense. So an author who's written movie novelisations, but a book by them that isn't a movie novelisation. So for that, I've gone with Relics by Shaun Hutson. So a favourite cheesy British horror author of mine, Shaun Hutson, wrote the UK novelisation of The Terminator. So, and I used to have a copy of that, and I'm kicking myself for not having a copy of it anymore because it goes for quite a lot of money now. And it's fantastic. So Shaun Hutson is always kind of over the top with sex and violence and things like that. His novelisation of The Terminator is no exception, and I remember absolutely loving it. I've read it a few times as a teenager. James Cameron apparently hated it, and someone called, I think the name of the author of the American novelisation is Randall Frakes. So he was really keen for Randall Frakes to write a novelisation which he considers to be better. I think the Shaun Hutson one is much better. Anyway, the Shaun Hutson book I'm going to read is Relics, which is one I read probably about the same time as I read the Terminator novelisation, and haven't read yet. I haven't reread since, I don't think. The blurb is great, so let me read you the blurb. Something evil is waiting, something monstrous is loose. From the relics of the past comes a new nightmare, a force so powerful, so obscenely evil that it threatens to reach across the centuries and engulf mankind. When a hidden chamber filled with the skulls of children is discovered by an archaeologist, horror is unleashed on the town of Longfield. Black mass orgies with heroin-addicted teenagers, savage dogfights, mutilated corpses. So yeah, I remember this being fun. It definitely sounds fun from that blurb. So yeah, looking forward to that. Next then, we have a book a novel set around the movies. So for that one, I'm going to go with Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. So I've still, I think, only read Mexican Gothic by Moreno-Garcia, which I really, really enjoyed. So keen to read more by her. And Silver Nitrate sounds really interesting. So a vampire novel set around silent movies. Love the concept, and yeah, really looking forward to reading that. Next then, we have the next prompted is any novelisation, and I've actually not got the book that I've chosen for this from my pile. So forgive me while I grab it from the floor. From the pile on the floor. So the book I'm going to read for that is Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again by Shigeru Kayama. So this very recently published in the UK. I think it only came out in the last kind of month or so. The English translation is by Jeffrey Angles. So these are, I think, so these are two novelisations of the first two Godzilla movies that were originally published in the 50s in Japan, so 1955, and have just been translated into English. So I love the concept. I love the idea of reading a 50s Japanese movie novelisation of a Godzilla film. And this is a really gorgeous edition as well. I think they've done a fantastic job of making what is probably quite a trashy book look really, really classy. So very much looking forward to reading both of those. Okay, next prompt then is, read a graphic novel or manga that has been adapted. So for that, I'm going to continue, and I haven't read any of these since July, I've realised, which is awful. So I need to finish the series Monster by Naoki Urasma. So I love this series so far. So I've read the first 6 volumes. There are 3 more to go, 7, 8, 9. This is volume 7. I'll probably read 8 and 9 in November as well. And then I'm going to try and do a full review of the whole series. I may even go back to the beginning and start the series again and read the whole thing, because I really think it's fantastic. So yeah, looking forward to that. Next is a tie-in. So tie-in, different from a novelisation in that it's set in the same universe rather than being a direct translation of a particular of a particular movie or TV episode or what have you. So for that one, again, I've just realised I forgot to get the book out. So for that one, I'm going to read Alien: The Cold Forge by Alex White, which Andrew says is his favourite book ever. I think he said it's his favourite book ever, or one of his favourite books ever. So there are tons of books set in the Alien universe, of which I have read none, I think. I've definitely read the novelisations of Alien, Aliens and Alien 3. Alien and Aliens being ones I read as a kid because I couldn't get to see the movies. So yeah, really looking forward to this. It sounds like an interesting concept. I have read, actually, I'm all over the place in this video, aren't I? I read Aliens Vasquez by V. Castro, which is up on the shelves there. But that was fun. So yeah, anyway, this one comes highly recommended. So looking forward to diving into that one. And then I think that is, so that is all of the books for Novelisation November. So the next event I'm then going to take part in is the Cryptid Readathon, which is being hosted by Jason from Jason's Read. Oh God, this video is a disaster. Jason from Jason's Weird Read, Crystal from Vibrartsy, and Sin from Sin's Book Nook. So this is a reading event focused around cryptids. So cryptids being like mythical, I'm never quite sure what cryptids are, but basically like mythical creatures which may some people think exist, but lots of people think don't exist. Bigfoot and Nessie being great examples of cryptids. So I've got a few things picked out for the Cryptid Readathon. There are, I think, 5 prompts. So the books I've picked out are, so the first prompt is your favourite cryptid. So for this one, I'm going to go with the classic, Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot is fascinating as a cryptid just because it seems to me so American. It's such an American thing, and also so rooted in kind of the 70s. You know, you really think of like the Bigfoot like kind of sightings videos and things like that from the 70s. I remember the concept of Bigfoot as a kid and being interested by it. So I've got a book for that called Bigfoot Crank Stomp by Erik Williams, which is about Bigfoot on meth. So a bit like Cocaine Bear, I guess, but with Bigfoot. A few people have recommended this to me over the last few months, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. The next one is, the next prompt is a cryptid you wouldn't want to meet in the dark. So I don't think I'd want to meet any cryptids in the dark. The book I've chosen for this anyway is a cryptid I would kind of want to meet in the dark, but then would definitely regret it. So the book is The Mermaid of Sicily by Jincey Lumpkin. So I read the first Mermaid book. I think the name of the series is Billionaire Sirens. So the first book is The Mermaid of Venice, which I read in Garb August, which I really, really enjoyed. So it's about this killer mermaid who is like stunningly beautiful, who starts romances with human men and then inevitably kills them at the end. So the second book is Mermaid of Sicily. So yeah, really looking forward to reading that. Next one is a water-based cryptid. So being in the UK, I couldn't not read a Nessie book. And I checked on my Kindle and I have already got one. So I've got Curse of Loch Ness by Peter Tremaine. So Peter Tremaine was a British horror author in kind of the 70s and 80s. Right, a few different things. I've read a couple. They were both kind of okay, not amazing, but okay. So I'm going to read Curse of Loch Ness by Peter Tremaine, which I think came out late 70s, early 80s. Next is a book about a forest cryptid. So I think I'm cheating a bit for this one because I'm not 100% sure this book actually contains cryptids, but it does contain monsters living in the forest. That book is The Haunted Forest Tour by James A. Moore and Jeff Strand, which again has come highly recommended. So looking forward to reading that one. I wanted to read it for a while. And have failed to. So this gives me a perfect reason to read it. And then finally, the final one is to read a book about a cryptid that is near you. So in the UK, we don't really have that many cryptids. Obviously, Nessie, possibly the most famous cryptid. So up in Scotland, but Scotland is a long way from me. In UK terms, anyway. Maybe not in American terms, but in UK terms, Scotland's a long way away. So I've gone with, as my choice for cryptids near me, the concept of the British big cat. So that's one thing that we do have in England in particular, is this, sightings of big ferocious cats, which have cropped up in various places in the country, and are, still to this day, nobody really knows if there are actually big cats out there and that have got loose from zoos or what have you. So an interesting one, and definitely a very British one. Clearly in America there are just naturally occurring big cats out there, like mountain lions and things like that. But in the UK there are not. So that felt like an appropriate pick. So for that one, I was trying to find a book about, like a novel about British big cats, and was struggling, and then discovered there's one by an author I really like. So a British author called Stephen Laws, who was reasonably big, I guess kind of mid-tier British horror author in the 80s in terms of success. I think his books are really good, the ones I've read. So he wrote a book in the 80s, I think it was in the late 80s, called Ferocity, which I haven't read, but which is about like big cat attacks in Britain. So I'm going to read that one for my cryptid near me. And then finally, a couple of Patreon related reads. So I do a buddy read each month with one of my patrons where they get to pick the book. So this month I'm doing a buddy read with my patron Ida, and he has picked the book The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, so a classic horror novel which I've never read, so really looking forward to reading that. And then also have a Patreon book club where my patrons vote on the book that we're going to read each month. So this month we've got a short story collection, Nocturnes by John Connolly. So John Connolly, best known for the Charlie Parker series, of which I've read, I think, the first couple. And remember really enjoying them, although it was a long time ago. So I've been keen to get back to John Connolly for a while. And this short story collection, Nocturnes, has got great reviews. So really looking forward to reading that. I think it does have a Charlie Parker short story in it as well. So yeah, both of those should be a lot of fun, I think. So yeah, those are my reads that are locked in for this month in terms of continuing my ongoing projects and taking part in some fantastic readathons. And aside from that, I will also, as I've said, randomly pick some things from my Kindle and from my big pile of books that's on the floor there for my Read What You Own challenge. So yeah, do let me know in the comments what you're going to be reading in November. Let me know if you're taking part in any of those reading events. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.